What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Sober Social. Today what I want to talk to you about is getting over the initial resistance that you might feel before going out into social environments, especially those very high stimulus social environments like at a bar or a club. And it's all about doing this without alcohol, right? So if you want to do that, again, that's fine. But I want to share with you a secret superpower that I have used myself. And in order to access this superpower, all you have to do is get past that initial resistance. And then after that, I promise you, it's going to be a lot easier, a lot more fun, and a lot more effective. So we're going to go into all of that right now. All right, so I'm over here sitting with the ducks, as you can see. I thought that they were a really good metaphor for the antithesis of this secret power that I'm going to share with you, and that is momentum. The ducks over there, they're all sitting, chilling, not very active. And I don't know if you've ever heard of the law of like inertia, momentum or whatever, but basically it means that whatever the body is doing, it's going to continue to do. So if it's in motion, it'll continue to stay in motion generally. And then likewise, if it's sitting still like it is over there, like these ducks are, and like I am, it will continue to. And I remember going back to the bar, going to the bars for the first time and being a loser with no friends. I would do it alone, of course. And I would go and like sit in the corner, and of course I'd also go early. I'll talk about this in other videos, bar time, But I would go and like sit in the corner and then just like feel so confused and so irritated, and those like that negative self-talk would just start and just get out of control. And I would sit there and basically like wait for an opportunity to approach a girl, because that was what I was really working on at the time. And it was just very awkward, and the longer I sat, the more and more stuck I felt. So this concept of momentum, which is just a moving inertia. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that word, but this concept of inertia, you see these ducks over here, they've been sitting I don't know how long, but chances are, because they're sitting and not moving, they will continue to sit and not move for however long, because that inertia is keeping them still. Well, likewise, if you turn that inertia into moving inertia, it's called momentum. And that way, if you start moving, it's going to be much, much easier to continue to move. And as you move more frequently, it's going to be even easier and easier and easier. And not only is it easier after you've gained a little bit of momentum, it's more fun, it's more effective, it's just an incredible feeling, and that's where I want to get you. So now that I've kind of explained this concept of momentum, now you're probably wondering, well, how do I get there? So if my lovely assistant will please hand me my journal. I'm now going to discuss some strategies for breaking through that initial resistance in social contexts. So I'm going to assume just for a second that you're a person with social anxiety to whatever degree, for however long you've had it, and with or without alcohol, no judgment, just we're gonna go into how you can beat that. And the number one tip I have for you here is to take the pressure off. But what does that mean? Or how do you do it? The first thing that I would say to you is to lower your expectations. When you go into a social setting, if it is in your heart to go from where you're at, experience-wise and reference-wise, to the finish line, pretty much inevitably you're going to be disappointed. Instead, what you should aim to do is you should aim to have small wins, so that any little bit of success, you cling to that and you remember it and you cherish it and you're grateful for it. And by that way, by that wisdom, it's going to be a lot easier to start small and kind of like building a new habit. If you start really big and you feel like you're going to be like running a marathon within a week or two, probably you're not going to make it, and then you're going to be disappointed. But if you start by, let's say, jogging for 15 minutes in the morning for a couple weeks at a time, and then you turn it to 30 minutes and so on, you see where I'm going with this. So anyway, relating that back to a social context, what's a strategy that you might be able to lower your expectations? So let's say that you're out in the social context in order to make new romantic relationships. Well, instead of having your expectation as high as you want to meet a girlfriend tonight or a boyfriend tonight, Maybe it should be something more along the lines of, I just want to meet 2 more people or 3 more people. I just want to make a friend, and then from there, you know, if it goes well, then I can continue to talk to more people, and maybe they can introduce me to more people. And so by lowering your expectations, I think the big key there is that it's much easier to be delightfully surprised at what does end up happening. When you have really high expectations, it's much easier for them not to be met, and even if they are met, that's the best that you can really do, right? If you have super high expectations. But if you have very low expectations, it actually is the case that they can be exceeded. So that's my first tip for you. The next thing that I'd like to say about that, taking the pressure off of yourself in order to have the ease of breaking through that initial barrier, is to check your intentions. Why are you there in the first place? And this might take some really deep introspection. What I would recommend, this is what I do all the time, is journal. As you can see, I'm referencing one of my journals right now. Take some time. Take 10, 15 minutes. It doesn't have to be like strenuous, but just ask yourself some critical questions. Why do I want to get into this game in the first place? What is it that my main goal is socially? If you're trying to reduce the amount of alcohol you drink, or if you're interested in not drinking at all, that's a separate goal of yours. That's cool. But I would ask yourself what your intentions are socially. So again, ask yourself, am I there to make friends? Am I there to find a romantic partner? And probably, I mean, if you want like some advice in that area, what I would suggest to you is, instead of focusing on any one outcome as a goal, like those, landing a friend, landing a date, or anything like that, make your priority simply to become better with people, not just members of the opposite sex, and not just in certain contexts, but just simply to become that person that is naturally social, that is naturally friendly and charismatic. So check your intentions and make sure that they're in the right place, and that they're not malicious or sort of leechy, which is the next point that I actually want to make here. This has got to be the most powerful tip that I could ever give anybody when it comes to socializing and just becoming that more friendly and charismatic person. It kind of warms my heart even just thinking about it. When a lot of people go out to social settings, oftentimes it's their biggest barrier is they're not even aware that it's coming from within themselves, and that is that they're going out to seek enrichment for themselves, and they're not really interested in sharing love and good vibes with other people. And ironically, this very seeking for more is what makes it so that they feel like they're in a state of scarcity. They don't have enough. When you flip the script around, and instead of going out to a social context and being like, I need to feel wanted by somebody, I need to feel like somebody else finds me fun, somebody else finds me smart, or whatever your identity is. If you let that go, and this is going to take some work. I'm not saying this is going to be easy. It's going to maybe take some time. It doesn't have to, and I don't want to give you that impression, but it could take some time. If you can flip that script around, and you can come from the state of, I already have enough. I already am rich socially, and perhaps materially as well. But you just want to have that mindset of, I need nothing from these people, which is actually another point for the next video. But flip the script around and come from a place where you want to give value. You want to go there and you want to share love and offer that love and that good, just that character that people want to be around, right? I mean, I know it sounds like maybe easier said than done, right? But just have it in your mindset. Remember that it's about giving, truly. I mean, this is more of a life principle than just a social one, but especially within a social context, if you can, especially, I mean, I'm not sure who you are, but if you've been in that leeching state, if you can change the pattern from feeling like you need something, and that you're feeling like you're lacking something and that you need to take it from somebody else, flip that switch and say to yourself, I need nothing. and I simply want to share, it's going to be so much easier for you to get through, you know, the fear of rejection, the fear of approaching, the fear of, you know, like all of these terrible scenarios that could go wrong, approaching the wrong people, approaching at the wrong time, saying the wrong thing. All of that's going to come so much more naturally if you can just let go and start getting into that mentality of, I want to give. To wrap up here, I want to talk about your focus. And the reason I want to discuss this is because when you're starting a new practice, it can be very easy to feel a little bit overwhelmed. And maybe overwhelmed is not the best word, but it's easy to get lost in all of the new information, and you have this sort of arbitrary sense of just wanting to improve by going out and practicing the discipline, right? So I want to talk about your focus, and specifically what I want to reference is a point that I got from this book, Atomic Habits by James Clear. Probably the best book on habit building and habit breaking ever written. It's my favorite anyway. I'm going to read you a quote from chapter 20. Habits create the foundation for mastery. In chess, it is only after the basic movements of the pieces have become automatic that a player can focus on the next level of the game. Each chunk of information that is memorized opens up the mental space for more effortful thinking. This is true for any endeavor. When you know the simple movements so well that you can perform them without thinking, you are free to pay attention to more advanced details. So what Mr. Clear is saying here is that I think usually, like when people go out and they practice something new, any new discipline, in your case it's probably socializing, with or without alcohol. This channel specifically is about high level socializing without the assistance, although I would call it sort of a phantom assistance of alcohol. Doing that without having a clear focus on what you're working on specifically, it can feel a little bit overwhelming with all of this new information coming at you. Studying it and going out practicing arbitrarily, not only may you feel overwhelmed, but it can also be much less effective because you don't have a clear criteria that you're working on and that you can use as focusing on the feedback from that particular component of the discipline, like he mentioned in chess. So what I want to give you here is a few examples of some basic things that you might work on one at a time in your social journey. The approach, cold approaching, being fun and lighthearted versus dull and boring, or even a little bit like we said earlier, the leechy type energy. So practicing that. Telling stories, which is an incredible life skill. Dancing loose, not necessarily well, but loose, so that you can actually enjoy it and have that gravitational type energy. And finally, closing. In this case, I don't really love the term here, closing like a deal, you know, but it's just an easy way to reference getting numbers, exchanging Instagram, so on and so forth. Thanks guys for tuning in to Sober Social this week. Stay tuned for next week. I'm going to be talking about non-neediness.